Greetings, you music-loving dudes. How are you doing? Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben. So, we've
Yo.
finally got to the end of 1998, haven't we, Ben?
We have indeed. It is New Year's Eve, 1998, and we are going into 1999. We've just got to decide which 1, 2, 3 albums we are taking in to the last year of the century.
Are you ready to party like it's 1999?
I think so, dude. I think so. Do you know what? I have still not really got a clue what my top 3 are. Now,
I find this very difficult. I must admit, there's a lot of albums from 98 that I think are good. There are some that I'm still, I would be lying if I told our viewers that I'd listened to all of the albums on these, best of lists of 1998. I can only pick my personal favourites by going to the ones that are most likely to attract me in terms of the style and genre, etc.
yeah.
I mean, it's unlikely that a hardcore gangster rap album is going to make my top 3 personal favourites of the year.
Or a new metal reggae album.
Exactly. Good though they may be, great creative achievements they may be. I don't think they're going to crack my personal top 3 of what I'd like to listen to most.
What about Charlotte Church? She had an album out this year.
Did she in '98?
She did indeed when she was a sprightly young
I say that was
teenager.
when she was doing all the choir stuff.
Yeah.
So it's still quite difficult, and I have listened to some albums that I think are good, are very good. Maybe if I listen to them more, maybe they would go higher up the list. But it's difficult to abandon those ones that you've known from the time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, one album I think that neither of us will be picking, and always, I don't know why, but always it is always in my mind. It's not always in my mind. Trust me, my mind has other things in it. Remember when we used to have a radio show and we played the opening track to the Bewitched album because it was a Junglist Massive tune?
I don't recall that, I must say.
That album was out in 1998, but it's not made my top 3. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, I listened yesterday while I was doing some menial tasks on my headphones, a decent pair of headphones, has to be said. I'm talking about proper headphones, not little ear things. So I got a pretty decent hi-fi experience of Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Yes. Did she turn up on time?
And I thought I would stick it on because obviously it's one of the most acclaimed albums of '98. It's considered this legendary R&B album. I'd never listened to it, and I thought. The other day, actually, I also got reminded of her because my friend was telling me that his son, who is mad on R&B music and has been to see Beyonce and all these kind of people, went to the Lauryn Hill concert, which took place, I think, last week, and was in the front row. So she's doing this tour. I don't think she's done a tour for years and years. In fact, she hasn't made a record, has she, since this Miseducation thing?
I don't think she's made a record for a long time. I know people who've been to see her and she turned up hours late.
Well, she was on time when I pressed play on my streaming, so that was okay.
Yeah.
And the album starts off, there's some skits that come in, on some of these rap and R&B albums, they have these sort of spoken skit things.
You get a lot on the Fugees album. Yeah, a lot of them have.
Well, this one is all based on kids in the schools. It starts off with the school register and the teacher's reading out the register, and Lauryn Hill's not there. So,
what am I not surprised?
Yeah, so she's not in school. So, and then you do hear these clips of this teacher talking to the kids. It's obviously set in one of the black communities in America. I'm not sure where she's from. Is she New York or is she Los Angeles? I'm not even sure.
Do you want to find out?
Yeah.
The power of the internet.
The kids are talking with the teacher about love and what's love and all this sort of thing. And the skits aren't too long. They're not too annoying. They're okay. They kind of set the scene, I suppose, for the album. But it's pretty much, I suppose, what I expected. It's a mixture of soulful songs where she's singing, and also some rapping and some sort
She's
of
from
hip
New
hop stuff.
Jersey, East Orange,
Okay,
New Jersey. She is 49 years old.
right. I was going to say, thinking whether she was in her 50s, but she's not quite there. But
No, she's
I mean, the
getting there.
vocals are very good. Can't you know? I'm just one listen. I couldn't really follow. I didn't want to turn it off. I didn't feel, God, this is awful. I've got to turn this off. So that was okay. She did all right in that regard. There was
Yeah.
only one song that I really recognised from having been on the radio, which was, is it called That Thing or That
Yeah, yeah.
Thing? Yeah, that was all right. Again, but I think maybe you'd have to listen to
That
the album a bit
thing,
more.
that thing.
I didn't really cotton on to why it's considered to be so absolute genius, but maybe if I
Yeah, yeah.
listened a bit more, maybe I would, you know, dig it more. I don't know, but it
I
was
know why
fine.
she hasn't made many records. Because by the looks of it, she's been making a lot of babies.
Okay.
She got six children with
All right.
Rohan Marley, the son of Bob Marley.
Okay, I didn't know that. Right.
Mm. So there you
So
go.
yeah, doing the cover of No Woman, No Cry must have worked out okay for her then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So she was definitely doo-wopping that thing, wasn't she? By the sounds of
sounds like it. Um,
it.
she didn't have any miseducation in her sex education, by the sounds
She
of it. Yeah.
definitely didn't. No, she's definitely got
No,
a grade A in that one. All of her biological functions are working. So yeah,
so
she's
there we
got
go.
6 children. So
So I don't know why I'm going on about it so long, but there we go. That was Lauryn Hill. I have listened to the Lauryn Hill album, all 77 minutes of it.
yeah, I remember it is long.
It's long. It's a full up CD, obviously.
Yeah.
So I can no longer say that I haven't heard that album.
Would it crack
Other
your
ones,
top 3?
well, I don't. No, at the moment, no. I can't see it cracking my top thing. But then, I'm not ruling it out. Never say never. Maybe in the future I'll have an epiphany. I'll hear it again, and maybe I'll suddenly.
Realise the error of your ways, young Philip.
But I'm probably not enough of an R&B and hip hop fan for it to be right up there for me. Probably.
No.
But
But you kind
full
of
respect.
understand the yeah. Well, I was looking, and I'm stuck on my top 3 because I've got a few. Now, I need to ask a question. Is the master plan allowed?
Well, that's a very good question, isn't it? Because sometimes people start. Well, the other question I don't think we even asked for this is: are live albums allowed? I think we said
Yeah,
no,
because there's
didn't
a
we?
few live albums out this year, which are quite good.
I mean, I think didn't we agree that they're not allowed? They've got to be studio. They've got to be original songs.
I think
on
we
them.
did, yeah.
Now, obviously, that could be problematic if you had an album that was live but had new songs on that weren't on any other record, which
Yeah.
has happened on occasions, but it's not that common. And the other thing is with the master plan,
Those songs had already been released.
they had already been released. I mean, it's not a greatest hits album. We tend not to allow greatest hits albums, so that's not really a proper album. That's just a compilation. Now, the master plan, it is really effectively a compilation, isn't it? Because none of those songs had been, or the songs had all been out before, but they'd not been on an album before. So, but I'm thinking that it's probably. I feel that it's not really a proper album because I feel it's a compilation and it was never
No, that's
intended
fine.
to
That's
be
fine.
an album.
It does take one off of my list to get this narrowed down.
I think it's less an album in the sense that they didn't make those songs originally to be on an album.
No.
They may have written the songs and recorded them with a view to putting them on the current album they were making at the time, and then decided it's a B-side. But they didn't put all those together at the time. So I think it's kind of, you could argue that a live album would be more of its time than
A B-side.
a disparate compilation from across different years, and the songs come from different years as well, don't they? So they're not really of '98.
So I'm going to cross that out. I'm going to cross Charlotte Church out, and I'm going to cross begrudgingly Bewitched out. And
you got James Blunt on there, Chris de Burgh, maybe Barry Manilow.
James Blunt didn't have an album in 1998, did he?
I wouldn't have thought. No, I wouldn't have thought so. But you never know.
Chris Rea did, I think. I think he had one at the start of the year. Chris de Burgh.
I don't mind Chris Rea. Chris Rea's kind of dad rock. I think Chris Rea
I don't
is
mind Chris
cool.
Rea.
Is good quality dad rock. I don't have anything wrong with Chris.
Yeah,
Rea.
no, Chris de Burgh. I don't know why he's always worried me, because even when he was in his 20s, he looked like he was in his 50s.
Yeah, well, looking back on when he did Lady in Red, he seemed pretty middle-aged at that time, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
I don't know how old
what
he
looks
was.
like? He looks like a failed PE teacher. He looks like he should be teaching pottery.
Well, who's it you think's a geography? Paul Simon, do you think looks like a geography teacher?
Paul Simon looks like a geography teacher, yeah.
Yeah, Christopher...
A divorced geography teacher. He's just living his best life now.
Christopher, to me, is maybe more the history teacher.
Yeah.
Or with a
bit of a dependency for red wine.
Could be. Yeah.
I think so. But do you want to know some of the ones which are on my list?
Yeah, let's have something decent that's on your list. Come on.
I've got Fatboy Slim. You've come a long way, baby. I do enjoy that album, but it is an album that I could listen to once and then I could not listen to it again for a long time. But I do quite like that album. Obviously, the hits are all on there. The Sean Mullins album as well. We've not spoken about the Sean Mullins album. Now, I remember buying Soul's Core on CD because he obviously had the song that was in our one-hit wonders of the 90s, Lullaby. If you've not seen the one-hit wonders of the 90s, go back because it comes to a very climactic, undecisive ending. But yeah, I really enjoy that album. It's a really good sort of folk rock, pop rock album. Eagle-Eyed Cherry and Desireless, another song. The Save Tonight was in our one-hit wonders as well, wasn't it? That got quite high, if I remember. And I do enjoy that album as well, but it's not quite my top 3 material. If anything, they kind of remind me of that time, which is... Yeah, it's more of the memories they bring back rather than the substance of the album. But the ones which are challenging, my top 5, I'll read them all out to you. They are Madonna, Ray of Light, Pulp, This Is Hardcore, Robbie Williams, I've Been Expecting You, The Manic Street Preachers, This Is My Truth, So Tell Me Yours, Morcheeba and The Big Calm, and The New Radicals, Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too. Shock horror. So that's where I'm up to, and I think I know I was going to throw in for laughs and giggles, The Lighthouse Family and Postcards from Heaven.
Yeah, you always kind of like chilling out to the Lighthouse Family, didn't you?
I didn't mind the first album.
Moments.
Yeah, because obviously when it came out, I had Glandular Fever, didn't I? And I quite liked the song Ocean Drive because I was confined to a bedroom because I was poorly, and it kind of made me think of nicer things that were out there. But yeah, my top 5 is really hard. Now, I know one of those top 5 is going to drop out, top 3, sorry, because I think you've chosen one of them. And so therefore, I am not going to pick that one, and I think I know which one it is.
Well, I think it's only fair because you had a couple of the Oasis albums, which I knew you were going to have in there, and then that meant that and I could have put those in my personal top 3.
Yeah. Well, do you want to tell everybody what it is?
Well, I think it's a secret, is it? We're going to have
Madonna's Ray of Light. Madge. So, Madgester.
So, and I haven't had Madge in this 90s thing so far, have I? I've not actually put any of her albums in which is a bit of some might have considered that a shock, but I think this is going to have to be in the top 3 for me. So on that basis, you have a spare slot.
I do, which doesn't. So I'm going to scribble out Lighthouse Family, and I'm going to scribble out Madonna, and I'm going to scribble out Fatboy Slim, and I'm going to scribble out Shawn Mullins and Eagle Eye Cherry. So that gets me down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now,
You got 5.
Down to 5. I'm going to get rid of. Oh, God. This is really hard, Philster. So I've got the New Radicals. Right, let's not beat around the bush. The bush is here, so we're not going to beat around it. One of my albums going through, and it probably feels like an odd one out to some people because it was not many people knew there was an album. They just knew that there was a single. But it is full of big, infectious pop hooks. And it's a surprisingly insightful album. And that is Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too by the New Radicals. And it's just got a real nice upbeatness to it and deals with things like materialism and all that sort of stuff. So I think that it is a perfect sort of combination of fun and meaningfulness with enough hooks and choruses to keep you engaged for the whole album. Which you still haven't listened to yet, which you need to listen to.
And you promised me, because I know that it's got one very catchy sort of natural pop hit on it. But you tell me that the rest of the album is not just, it's not just one catchy song and a load of forgettable ones. It is actually
It
good.
does go a little bit World Party, which isn't a bad thing. Bit Carl Wallinger. The first track, Mother, I Just Can't Get Enough, when it starts, Daniel Bray-Bois comes in with the opening line of the album is, "Make my nipples hard, let's go." Which is okay, apart from when my daughter was young and that came on, and she was about 5, she kept going to me, "Daddy, make my nipples hard, let's go." And I was like, that is not a thing you should be saying, ever. So, but yeah, I've loved that album since it sort of came out. I mean, I love a bit of Greg Alexander. I have a playlist in my Spotify called Greg's Wonder Basket, which is all the songs that Greg Alexander has written for other artists. Yes, there is some Ronan Keating in there, but there is some Santana. There is some Texas in there. Inner Smile, that was one of theirs. So it's I would say Greg Alexander is in my top 5 or 6 songwriters as well of all time. So that is
okay.
That is my obvious choice. Now I'm down to Morcheeba, Big Calm, Manic Street Preachers, Robbie Williams, and Pulp. Have you ever heard the Morcheeba album?
Not the whole thing. I have heard a fair few tracks, but it's good.
I really like that album, but the only reason why I don't think it's going to get into my favourite albums of 1998 is because I only really got into it in the last few years. So therefore, for me, it feels like an album from now and not then. So I'm going to take my pen, and I really wanted to put Morcheeba through because
you can do. I mean, you are allowed to. I mean, it's an album of 1998 that you like. You're and you think it's one of the best, and you want to listen to that more and more. You can have it. You don't have to have a memory associated with.
I know, but I've based a lot of this off of memory association. So with that in mind, I am going for Robbie Williams. I've been expecting you.
Well, I can't say that I wasn't totally expecting that because I know you do like a bit of the Robbie. So
I don't mind his first few albums, and this has got some great tracks on it. And I went to see him live on this tour because I felt invested in him because I bought his album before the Angels thing kicked off, and I bought his cover of George Michael's Faith. Was it
Freedom,
Faith?
was it Freedom he did? Yeah.
Freedom. He did. Yeah, yeah. So I bought that single. So I was invested in the Williams' solo career before a lot of other people. A lot of these hangers on.
You hadn't jumped on the mainstream bandwagon. You were there from the
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
Yeah.
As the New Radicals say in one of their songs, isn't she pissed that all the other nonconformists listen to the same obscure band? And that's how I am with Robbie Williams. I wasn't in before all these
Fair enough.
mothers and daughters and stuff got into him. So
There you go.
that's going in because that does. I did listen to it a lot at the time because, yeah, it was just massive. So that's my second one. So then it's out of the Manics and Pulp.
I think I know what's going to win, but
It's going to have to be Pulp. I really want to put the Manics through. I really want to put Morcheeba through. Hopefully, Shoegaze Sam might watch this video and put me out of my misery. And when we invite him on to choose one of his albums of the 90s, he may choose one of them. I don't think he will, but I am going for the Pulp This Is Hardcore album. So, because I didn't fully get into the album until recently, but I did buy the singles off of it, and it is just, it's quite a haunting sort of album, sort of dealing with all those excesses of that Britpop area. And I've often said that Be Here Now was the massive party, and This Is Hardcore was sort of like the hangover the next day. So,
of the so-called Britpop era.
yeah. And obviously, if my mum's watching this, which she will do because she likes to keep an eye on me, Phil. So, well, she likes to keep an eye on you more than anything. Obviously, I do sing the song "Help the Aged" to them quite a lot. So that is my 3. And that was really hard. 98 was really hard. So it's Pulp, This Is Hardcore, Robbie Williams, I've Been Expecting You. I really should have put Morcheeba in instead of it, but I'm going with Robbie Williams for the sentimental value. And possibly the greatest album of that year, Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too, by the New Radicals, is my 3. So what are your 2 remaining ones?
Okay, so let's just talk about the one that we both had high up there. That's Madonna's "Ray of Light."
We did,
which
yeah,
of
that
course
would have
is
gone in.
I think this is kind of known as being her, what would you call it, slightly spiritual Earth Mother album or something. That's how it was regarded, wasn't it? Or the sort of electronica masterpiece.
It's got a little bit of trip hopness to it as well, hasn't it?
So this is when she was being a teeny bit hippie and she'd become a mother, and she was toning down the provocative side and really embracing more perhaps the sort of thoughtful spiritual side. I think, to me, I liked it at the time, but listening to it in recent times, it's grown on me. I think it's
callous.
I don't think it's dated. I think maybe.
No, I don't think it has either.
Maybe some people may think it sounds 90s, but it doesn't sound dated to me.
It's William Orbit, isn't it?
William Orbit is the main guy.
Yeah.
She did it with William Orbit. There's a few songs on here that have a co-writing credit with Patrick Leonard, who is the guy who co-wrote with her, Live to Tell and Like a Prayer and a lot of those big 80s hits. Particularly the ballads with Patrick Leonard. But yeah, Frozen, The Power of Goodbye with Patrick Leonard. So
Drowned, A Substitute for Love is a great track.
Yeah, it's one. There's not really any weak moments on this. It's a long album. It's over 70 minutes long, I think. But it is one of her best, I think, for sure. And
I think it is her best.
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of probably a toss-up between that and Like a Prayer. Difficult for me to choose which of
Yeah.
those is the best album. But there we go.
See,
So
the
that's,
the thing with that album
yeah,
is, I always remember when it came out. I think she was just turning 40, wasn't she, when that came out?
I think so, yeah.
And that
Yeah, it
was
would
like the
have
big
been.
thing. Oh, Madonna's turning 40, and I remember thinking, God,
She's old,
imagine
yeah.
being 40.
Yes.
1 second, my stage hand has just come in. Hello,
And then you,
stage hand. Have I finished that drink? Look at this. I've got. What are you going to make me?
Keeps me in a basement.
Whatever you make me, I'm sure it'll be fine. I love having a runner on our show, such as the income we make from these videos. So, but yeah, I do remember thinking, "Gosh, she's 40. That seems really old."
really old, yeah. And now you
Yeah.
look back and think she wasn't that old at all, really.
No, crazy.
So my next one is, I had a bit of a toss-up on this because another album of '98 that could have made my top three, and I did like it a lot at the time, and I did listen to it a lot at the time.
Charlotte Church.
It's Beck and Mutations. Now, I feel like I'm not going to put it in the top three, but my only reason really for not having it in the top three is the fact I've already had two Beck albums, I think, in this '90s thing. And I'm thinking maybe that's, is it too much to keep putting Beck in the top three? But I suppose
Well, I mean, you are speaking to Mr. Oasis over here.
yeah. I think I don't know. I could have done. It was really close, and that's a fun album. It's a little bit all over the place in terms of its styles, but it's kind
What
of
you mean,
cool.
like
It's,
every other Beck album?
yeah, kind of yes. But then I thought I'm going to go with this one, which is a little bit. The only worry is that it's like I'm trying a bit too hard to be cool, because this was the Critics' album of the year. It's Mercury Rev's Deserters songs.
See, I did listen to it, and it was up there with Air and Moon Safari. They were also very close to my top five.
It's very good,
Three.
and it's got a great. It feels like it's all one cohesive thing, doesn't it? It takes you on a trip, and it's very dreamy and creative. And yeah, he's one of those singers who, he's not the greatest vocalist, but there's something slightly odd but alluring about him.
Like Bob Dylan and Morrissey.
Yeah, well, it's different to them, but it kind of works with their music. So
Neil Young, he's not a great vocalist.
no, well, he's another one whose voice I find quite interesting to listen to, even though he's not.
Something interesting about it. Do you know whose voice I have been finding a bit like
in fact, yeah, you're right. Neil Young is probably a good comparison. Yeah, go on. Sorry, who else do you find good?
This album beyond me, Editors. Tom, the lead singer of the Editors, has got real sort of baritone voice that shouldn't really be the lead singer of an indie rock band, but it just works. There's something good about it. He reminds me vocally almost. Remember, what's his name? Ian from Joy Division, Curtis.
Curtis, yeah.
You know, when he used to go bit baritone.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like you say, it's a voice that you sort of...
A bit like Scott Walker.
That sort of... There's something about it that it shouldn't work. I mean, the Editor's frontman has got a great voice, but there's something about it where you're like, I know it works, but I don't know why it works, and it shouldn't work, but it works.
Well, the third one, I think this is the first. Is this the first time I've had two women in the top three for a year?
A little bit of a cheeky threesome, Philster.
I think it's.
The runner's back.
So,
what has he made me? What is that? What do you mean? You can't just shrug your shoulders and go, I don't know.
My mummy.
Is that coffee? Is that out of a little sachet thing?
Maybe.
No, you can't get that wrong. Well done, runner. Tell you what, dude. Gonna have to put this on tax deductibles, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, yeah. He's made me a coffee. I've just had a cup. I'm going to be buzzing. Go on then. Who's your woman? Who's your lady? Your woman. Your woman, Phil. No woman, no cry.
I was just going to say, oh yeah, there's a picture of it. It's inside the CD case.
you
So
got-
the other one is, here we go.
is it Charlotte Church?
It's Lucinda Williams,
Oh, you did say about this.
and it's Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. Now, this is an album I didn't buy in 1998. I didn't get into listening to Lucinda Williams until a little bit afterwards. But what a great songwriter. I mean, she's just one of these writers who comes up with tunes to go with the things that she's got to write about.
So what is she? She's sort of country.
She's
folk,
sort of country rock, I suppose. She's
yeah,
more.
yeah. Not
she's not-
Garth Brooks style.
I wouldn't
more-
say really folky. I would say more towards country, but with a little bit of more of a rock and rolly edge to it. So it kind of,
yeah.
I get, yeah. She's a little bit more. Maybe the music's a little bit more rough and ready than Garth Brooks, who's quite sort of mainstream, isn't he? He's a little bit more.
Yeah,
she's a little bit off. She's a little bit off the mainstream, but very accessible. And the more I listen to her, the more I like her, and the more I well, there's a song on here called "Can't Let Go," and that's kind of I can't stop listening to it once I put it on. She's got one of those voices that's a little bit, not so much gravelly, but there's a little bit of a crack in it. You know what I mean? It's sort of, and that sort of gives it a bit of authenticity as well.
Yeah.
It's not like a super pretty voice, but it's not like really gravelly that would, necessarily, like, for some people would be nails down a chalkboard. She's not quite that bad, I don't think, but one of those voices that maybe is a bit of a love-hate thing.
I'll have to have a listen. I'll have to have a.
You have to have a bit of a. But I know that is regarded as a classic album, and it's been regarded as the place to start if you're going to try out Lucinda Williams. She's got lots of other albums as well now. Of course, she's been around a while. I think she started in the very late '80s or early '90s. But
I'll have to check her out, because it's funny. I mentioned Garth Brooks, and I know he's got a few legal issues at the moment, but now we've reaching the end of 1998. The party poppers are being pulled. In 1999, we could listen to the Garth Brooks album "In the Life of Chris Gaines," where he took on the rock persona of an Australian guy called Chris Gaines.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, which I always remember when this came out, and it's absolutely mad. Look, there's the...
So, it's country singer Garth Brooks taking on a character of a rock star.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's titled Greatest Hits. It's an album by American country music artist Garth Brooks, in which Brooks assumes a fictitious persona of Australian rock artist Chris Gaines. Originally, this album was intended to be the soundtrack for a movie called The Lamb. Which I just think is absolutely mad, because you just
that is quite bonkers. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just don't. Yeah, I suppose. Then again, Ant and Dec did it, didn't they? Because for years they were PJ and Duncan. They were singing as their TV characters.
And David Bowie had characters, of course, didn't he? He had Ziggy
yeah.
Stardust and Aladdin Sane, and then
So
Prince had his female character Camille.
Ooh. So maybe we're unfavourably.
But it's not what you'd expect from a country star, is it? A big country star like Garth Brooks. That's quite an out there kind of thing to do.
Yeah, so might even listen to that when we do next year, but we're not there yet, are we? We're still in 1998. So we've got our three each. We've got our three. So you've got Beck, Madonna, and Lucinda Williams.
Oh, Beck didn't quite make it. I got Mercury Rev.
Mercury Rev, that was it. Yeah, bloody Beck. And I've got Pulp, Robbie Williams, and the New Radicals. I've gone very sort of pop indie rock, and then a bit of sort of...
You've gone quite pop, but then you've got the downbeat Pulp album.
Pulp, yeah. So I'm, I think that's a good mix, though. I think that's a good eclectic mix from ourselves.
There you
So do you know
go,
what's-
viewers. That's our
Guess
6
what's
of the
next?
best.
1999, Phil. Oh, the Millennium Bug is approaching.
Well, viewer,
Play-
what do you think of our choices? I mean, they can't be wrong because they are our personal favourites, but what would your personal favourites be, your top 3 of 98, and what should we be sticking it on our headphones for 1999? Let us know in the comments, and we will be
Good.
back with those discussions very soon. Thanks for watching.